Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. The Nigerian Senate yesterday confirmed Ola Olukoyede as the substantive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The upper legislative chamber also confirmed Muhammad Hammajoda as the secretary of the EFCC and Halima Shehu as the chief executive officer, CEO of the National Social Investment Program Agency. Now, while being screened, Olukoyede said there would be no sacred cows in the war against graft, and that anyone suspected of involvement in financial crimes would be investigated and prosecuted, irrespective of political party affiliation, adding that the mandate that the law gives the EFCC does not discriminate. The screening of both nominees from Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu took place on the floor of the Senate as they pledged to add vigor to the war against graft. Amading Uyi tells us more in this report.
The nominees appeared before lawmakers, answering questions on the operations of the anti-graft agency. The nominee for the position of the EFCC chairperson unveiled his blueprint to fight graft and reposition the anti-graft commission. He also pledged to form a working relationship with other anti-graft agencies if confirmed by the Senate.
If I'm given the opportunity to be confirmed, one of the first things I'm going to do is to ensure that that MOU is executed so that will form a kind of working relationship between ICPC and EFCC, so that we'll be able to look, if ICPC is investigating someone using Nigerian taxpayers' money, why should I dissipate energy and resources to investigate if perhaps it's the same, the facts are similar? I don't think that is going to be the interest of of the nation.
Lawmakers continue to grill the nominee, especially on the method of fighting graft and the need for a deviation from the past, which has seen the agency accused of being used by the political class for witch hunts. They also took time to grill the nominee for the position of Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency. The nominee says that her past experience as a banker has trained her on the need for transparency and accountability.
In the course of my banking career, I was trained on due diligence, transparency, and accountability in carrying out financial transactions.
The President of the Senate then took a voice vote through lawmakers.
Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mrs. Halima Shehu for appointment as National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mr. Ola Olukoyede for appointment as Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Ola Olukoyede is hereby confirmed as Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
Both nominees were confirmed, including the Secretary of the nation's anti-graft agency. Amadin Uyi, reporting for News Central.
Now, as we look further into his capability to run his new office and how Nigerians feel, let's now bring in Debo Adeniran. He's the Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACO. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning for having me. Thank you.
Now, his background and his CV, some would say impressive, some would say not quite. He's a lawyer with about 22 years experience, would seem. But some have argued that he might not be quite fitting for the job. I want to find out what your thoughts are as regards his appointment and his capability of running this office.
Thank you very much. Ola Olukoyede has been part of EFCC for some time. And of course, he worked directly with one of the past chairmen of the EFCC. And he worked as a chief of staff to the chairman of the EFCC. That means that he was the right-hand man of the chairman, meaning that he had direct contact with every aspect of the job that of the functioning of the EFCC. So he is not a stranger to the job. His job has been well cut out for him. Apart from the fact that he became the secretary of EFCC of any is like the organizational memory. So he serves as the memory of the EFCC. Apart from being a lawyer and he's relatively young, and all of this will come as advantage for him. And that is why at our own level in Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, we welcome him with open hands, because we have also carried out our own little due diligence on him. We found out that he does not have all of those baggages that one could say would not make him work optimally. And since we have such a person who is a lawyer who has always been in the forefront of fraud detection and been working in the area of curbing corruption and prevent corruption, we believe that it's likely to be a good one. But then when we talk about what has been happening to chairmen of EFCC, I hope that he knows where the banana peels are, and he would not want to step on it, because he should be in a position to know that the first chairman of EFCC, yes, might not have committed the offense because it was not proven. Okay, might not have committed the offenses that were roped on them. He was humiliated out. He was sent to Kuru. That I'm talking about Nuhu Ribadu. Then Lamode, Madam Farida Waziri, all of them were sent out with ignominy. Ibrahim Magu, with whom the present chairman worked, was also roped up in a couple of allegations. Okay, these allegations were eventually not proven, but he was not allowed to return to EFCC after his suspension. Ditto the last one, although the last one, that Abdurrashid Bawa, was actually caught in the web of mismanagement of funds when he was in Port Harcourt, and he has not discharged himself of that allegation. When he was in the saddle too, he was accused and was actually convicted for not obeying court orders. Anybody that any institution that want to rely on courts to prosecute its responsibility will not want to disobey court order, will not want to commit contempt of the court. Abdurrashid Bawa was committed to prison at least 2 times, and he did not serve his terms in the prison yard. He did not do anything. He committed those offenses with impunity. So what we know of Ola Olukoyede, Olukoyede, sorry, I normally mix his surname, okay, is that he has not had any history of disobeying court orders. And I'm not sure that he had any history of being indicted or being taken to court, except maybe when Ibrahim Magu's term was questioned by a panel that investigated Ibrahim Magu when everybody had to be suspended. But then he had been reinstated. So basically, he had no baggages of corruption on his neck. And I believe that he is a square peg in a square hole or round peg in a round hole. So for now, maybe, in future, we may not be able to talk about the future. Maybe there's a bug in that office that make people to become object of humiliation by the system. For now, we believe that he is the right man for the job.
I don't know if Kakol also had, this same level of assessment, before Lamode or Waziri or Magu, were appointed, and if these things were pointed out, if the baggage, if any baggage was seen by Kakol before the appointment of the previous EFCC chairman, just like this one is being screened by Kakol now. But I want you to speak on two things. The first one is the controversy with whether he is qualified. According to what the law says, the EFCC Act states clearly that before you become EFCC chairman, you must have at least 15 years experience working in a law enforcement agency in Nigeria, among other things. Mr. Olukoyede doesn't have that, except I'm wrong. And so is it important that is, ignored, or is this something to look at? That the current administration has decided to ignore what the EFCC's Act says as its requirement for appointment of a chairman of the EFCC? That's one question. Because, the more we ignore these things, it basically, the government continues to seemingly just do things that they choose to do, regardless of what the law says. That's one. The second one is it really dependent on...
Let me take it one by one so that I don't forget.
All right, take this one first. I'll bring the second question.
Yeah. First and foremost, we did assessment of those that were nominated and confirmed as chairman of EFCC. Only that when Nuhu Ribadu came, nobody knew what the color of EFCC assignment was going to be. He had the singular opportunity of setting it up and looking for resources to do it. But when he got to the saddle, we didn't have any problem with him until he was being accused of wrongdoings and the rest of them, maybe for political reasons. For Farida Waziri, of course, we didn't know much of her, but we also did a search, and we criticized the way she was brought in after Nuhu was humiliated. But when she got to the saddle and he prosecuted Ibori's case, the former governor of Delta State, who was said to have nominated her for the job. And of course, we protested to her office that, look, you don't have to treat anybody as sacred cow. And indeed, she promised that she was going to prosecute Ibori, and all the charges, 170 count charge that she leveled against Ibori, was the reason why Ibori was convicted, even in the UK, when he was able to wriggle out of Awokuleyi's court in Delta State, in Asaba. So then when you talk about Lamode himself, Lamode has always been there and was not found wanting when he was doing his job. We confirmed that much. But along the line, he was said to have stolen as much as 1 trillion naira all alone. We question that allegation because it is almost impossible for somebody to single-handedly steal 1 trillion naira from the EFCC. And that was an embarrassment. He was removed all through. But then when Magu came, relatively, we didn't have much about him, whether positive or negative. But when the allegations started coming, we believe that it was corruption that was actually fighting back, because most of the allegations were not proven. And we did our own private investigation. We couldn't find anything until when Abdurrashid Bawa was brought in. Of course, we knew, and we have been talking about it even before he was mentioned, that there are certain allegations of corruption that involve some trucks when he was in Port Harcourt zone of EFCC, that this gentleman has not cleared himself of these allegations, that if somebody has corruption baggages on his leg and he has not discharged it, you don't make him of, the arrowhead of an institution that had to fight the same crime. He will want to protect, his own neck and would not fight that fight wholeheartedly. So basically, we criticize that before the present one. So everybody that came into that office had been assessed by us, and we had our own impression of what we should look out for.
Go ahead and talk about. Go ahead and talk about the current controversy on his.
So when you talk about the qualification of the present one, the acts only say cognate experience, and when you look at how long Olukoyede has been working with similar agencies, even in his private practice, he specializes on something that have to do with fraud. It is not that the person must be working directly with law enforcement agencies or with anti-graft agencies. There are a couple of cases that he has handled that led to the prosecution that EFCC carried out when he was there with Ibrahim Magu. I won't have it all, offhand, the list of the cases. So if somebody has been working in that area, has been a specialist in an area that is related to the new job, we believe that he can do it, that he is qualified based on cognate experience, not direct experience with EFCC or anti-graft agencies or law enforcement agencies. It doesn't have to be a policeman. That was one of the arguments we raised, that the chairman of that EFCC is a civilian, it's not a paramilitary institution, actually, that he only needs support of policemen to operate, just like ICPC, just like any of those law enforcement agencies, even including regulatory agencies, that they don't have to be policemen. Let us be civilian, thorough when we want to operate our own democracy. And that was why some people jubilated when Bola was nominated. If not because of the baggages he carried to the office from the Port Harcourt, we would have celebrated him too. So we wanted a civilian, a total civilian, to be not a uniform person who had been given training on using coercive forces to deal with people ruthlessly, just like it has been done. But we don't know the future. We can only see the present, and we saw the past, and we are looking at the present, and that is the reason. Those are the indices that will make us project into the future, maybe prognose into the future of his functioning in office, maybe more intelligently. But then, if anything should go wrong with the way he operates, we will have been disappointed.
Yeah, but
and
Mr. Adeniran, the thing is,
him.
The apologies. The thing is, no one is questioning his background or whether he's knowledgeable enough or whether he has baggage in the past. No one is bringing that up. It's only just fair that Nigerians point out that he may not have the 15 years experience, and I don't think the EFCC Act says cognate. The EFCC Act says 15 years experience working in a law enforcement agency, except I'm going to have to read it. But when I checked it, it didn't say cognate experience.
And it did speak about him working with the agency between the year 2018 and 2023. But, some have also asked as to what exactly, if there could be more light in that regard, because we know that when the Ibrahim Magu investigation was going on here, he was asked to leave at that point because, like you did mention, there were certain issues that needed to be sorted out. Yes, we can't categorically say that, he was a part of Ibrahim Magu's problems, but there was investigation that needed to be going on. So maybe there might need to be some clarity as to what exactly he was doing within 2018 to 2023. But before you come to that, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. We did speak about it some days earlier. how Leonard SAN, Femi Falana made reference to the federal character and how appointment of the EFCC head and the ICPC head are both from the Southwest geopolitical zone, and how this does not reflect federal character. Typically, if there are two appointments of the leaders of the anti-graft agencies, one should be from the south and one should be from the north. Do you think that this in any way is an issue to be considered as we go forward with this, with the appointments, of course, the confirmations and the swearing in?
I don't believe in the federal character arrangement. That is my personal opinion and my organizational opinion. What we believe in is that there should be competence, there should be capacity, there should be ability. Once you have it, just like we have in national team, everybody refers to that. Anybody that can do it should do it. But then the law must be obeyed, since it has been part and parcel of our laws for some time. That was what has been demonstrated now. Since the beginning of EFCC, this is the first time a Southerner will be made the chairman of that institution. And from the nomination that has been done for ICPC chairman, that is after the present chairman, Professor Bolaji Oreresonoye, expires. When his tenure expires, he will be replaced by a northerner. And that is why I think that the principle of federal character will have been obeyed, because the federal character says that if it is two positions, one must come from the north, one must come from the south. And if you look at those who will be working with Olukoyede himself, there are so many other principal officers and members of the commission that came from other parts of the country, not restricted to one section of the country. So if there are 6 people, here are supposed to be 6 people in the commission, they will be distributed along the geopolitical zonal arrangement. So basically, I don't think any law has been violated along those lines. Okay? So whatever law has been violated, we know that there are people who are more knowledgeable, I'm not a lawyer, who are more knowledgeable in those fields and will bring it out. And if there is any reason for the Senate, for the government to reverse itself, maybe the law court will say it. But for us, we are satisfied with the appointment, with the confirmation of Olukoyede for now. If he commits any offense, any impeachable offense that will make us to ask for his removal, we will not miss what in doing that. And I believe that the Senate will also agree with us if he commits such, crimes. That is my stance.
Well, I'm glad that you share that stance. Also, part of the argument would be that Section 14 of the Constitution says that appointments must reflect federal character. But like you said, I'm sure that would be an argument for the lawyers to go ahead with. I'm sure Sagi has a question, but I wanted to ask you about Abdulrasheed Bawa. And what we've seen, you mentioned some banana peels, that there are banana peels in these offices, unfortunately, that we then start to see them slipping. Abdulrasheed Bawa has been in EFCC, I don't even know, DSS detention at this point. What exactly is the position with Abdulrasheed Bawa? And would you say that we have acted constitutionally in terms of investigating and prosecuting the former EFCC boss?
Thank you. We have not acted rightly in the investigation and prosecution of Abdulrasheed Bawa. But then, for now, at our level, at the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, we don't even know where Abdulrasheed Bawa is. The rumor we had last was that he has resigned. And if he resigned quietly without letting the media or the public know about it, then that is his way of doing things. But Abdulrasheed Bawa has not even been speaking for himself. So why are we complaining on his behalf if he's enjoying what he's going through? Because even if somebody is in solitary confinement, there are always a way of smuggling things out, and people will know where he is.
Mr. Adeniro, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
So,
and let me just
well, you may
just to be
not
clear.
agree. That is why we are different.
I
Okay,
get it,
so
but just to be clear, if there's a law, there's a Criminal Justice Act. These things are put in place for reasons. It's a person doesn't need to complain first before you say, okay, the government is breaking the law. That's not the way that it should work. If there is, something wrong being done, and it's pretty much the same thing with the process through which these people are getting into office. If someone is pointing out federal character or pointing out the fact that, this person may not be necessarily qualified, there are important factors. The Abdul Rashid Bawa doesn't need to cry out first before Nigerians point out, the fact that there is something wrong with this person being held in detention for weeks and weeks and weeks. He doesn't need to cry out first. But I want you to finally speak on. If we're serious about fighting corruption in Nigeria, is it the person that is the EFCC chairman that is important, or is Nigeria as a country needing to change its approach towards fighting corruption? We can put a Reverend Father as EFCC chairman, and people would argue that even if you put a Reverend Father there that has no baggage whatsoever and has all the qualifications, Nigeria's corruption battle will still fail. So is Nigeria as a country ready to fight corruption, or are we going to just keep changing EFCC chairman?
Well, thank you. First and foremost, I didn't justify unending distension of anybody because we have been victims before. But then we cannot say with certainty that Bawa has not been released quietly, because like I said, the last we heard was that he has resigned. And even those of you in the media that do investigative journalism have not come up to say this is where he's been detained. And that is why I said that maybe he has been released quietly, because his lawyers, his relatives will have cried out. And we will know that, okay, the state is violating its own laws, and we have to defend, no matter who is under such a situation, must be defended, and because the law must be obeyed. Okay, so that is one. Then talking about qualification, going back to qualification and
if Nigeria is ready to fight corruption,
yeah, Nigeria
is ready to fight corruption. The truth is that we are just wriggling out of the political system that has accommodated corruption for so long. So anytime you fight corruption, even as media men and women, if you fight corruption, corruption will fight back. We know what we are going through, even as civil society organization, in the hands of those who don't want us to mention their names, that they have committed some corruption crimes. So basically, we have started from somewhere. And that is why I'm happy with Olukoyede when he said that he will pay more premium to preventive strategies rather than reactive strategies that a lot of former chairmen have used. So basically, what we should be doing is more and more arrest, due diligence, investigation, and prosecution. Not that you just arrest somebody and you'll be looking for evidence. We should find evidence and witnesses against those that we have seen to have committed those offenses before we took them to court.
Exactly. That's something that a number of Nigerians have been advocating for, because what we see is the opposite. We have them in detention, and then we're looking for reasons to keep them there, and then we're doing the investigation.
I'm still speaking on that.
Yes.
Because we have to appeal, just like former President Buhari appealed to the judiciary that they should not sabotage the fight against corruption.
The judiciary,
because no matter...
Mr. Adeniro, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I wanted to quickly chip in something here, that even when the judiciary does give orders The question is whether these orders will be respected. We've seen it a number of times where the judiciary, we saw it with the Nnamdi Kanu case. So even when the judiciary does give an order, this order is not being respected. What exactly can we make of this? If we continue this conversation, we will run out of time for our next conversation. Mr. Adeniran, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation this morning.
Well, thank you very much. But Abdulrashid Bawa actually violated the order of the court, and that was why he was committed to prison terms. So once the law is implemented and we, the public, assist the judiciary in ensuring that their orders are carried out, then we will be moving higher and higher to the Eldorado of the fight against corruption. And we believe that it's a winnable battle.
We certainly want to win the battle and improve our rankings on Transparency International Corruption Index. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.